Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about having the Sun in Pisces and an Aries Ascendant in a natal chart. Now, these signs are adjacent signs. I see them as neutral. Pisces is an introverted sign. It's feminine, and Pisces can be rather passive, and they're generally non-confrontational. While you have really, even though they're adjacent signs, they're kind of antithetical. Aries is kind of the antithesis of Pisces in certain ways. Look at Pisces could be very, Aries is a masculine sign. It's extroverted. It could be very outgoing. Aries Ascendant could be very outspoken as well, and more confrontational, and someone can even be combative, admit perhaps. And you have really, you have such a dichotomy, I think I'm saying it right, between these two signs. A lot can depend on if there's aspects made. If you have a positive aspect made, you might have some good blending with these energies. But let's say there's no aspect made, you might have some vacillation, and it could be somebody that might show that strong Pisces introversion and that need for solitude and seclusion a lot. And then at another moment, you might see this real more aggressive and outgoing Aries Ascendant come out. But that being said, the fact that Aries is rising, these characteristics will often be more dominant of Aries as far as the outer projection of self, the outer demeanor, and what others, the first impression, and what others see more readily, generally speaking. Now, in a natal chart, the sun sign represents our basic wants, while the rising sign or ascendant can represent the manner or method in which one attains these basic wants. So, for Pisces Sun, the basic wants can be connected with their dreams, their ideals, maybe things connected with self-sacrifice, perhaps helping others less fortunate than them, perhaps things connected with fantasy to some degree, even escape. And when I say escape, I'm not saying it in a derogatory sense. I'm saying escape, meaning just having their solitude and their seclusion, and often maybe wanting to be alone, having their alone time and being by themselves. And anyway, in spirituality and in the metaphysical, even in many cases. Now, having an Aries Ascendant, this person may attain these Pisces Sun basic wants, perhaps with one or more of these basic Pisces Sun wants, with a lot of fortitude, perhaps with their courage, especially connected with the dreams and ideals, and with a lot of bravery, by being outspoken, by being forthright, and it really. And also maybe the problem is having an impatient and maybe sometimes impetuous Aries Ascendant. The person has to remember that has this combination, that a lot of times dreams and they're reaching these ideals, they have it, what have you. They may they're not necessarily unattainable, but what they have to remember is not to always be in too much of a hurry, because sometimes things take time and might take a more methodical and patient way of doing it. So, and also perhaps maybe the thing with the as far as dreams and ideals, they might be perhaps maybe attained through an Aries-like profession, such as firefighting, such as any profession that shows that fortitude, that valor, that courage and bravery, perhaps something connected with the military, law enforcement, something with competition, even sports, and OSHA for another thing, arson investigation, professions that are, I guess you could say, affiliated or associated with fire, perhaps something connected with metals such as auto or refrigeration mechanic, and maybe even sports, because that involves competition. And so the thing too is, I thought was interesting, I looked up a natal chart of a celebrity, and many of you may have heard of Ron Howard. He's an actor and director. And what's interesting is he has the Sun in Pisces and an Aries Ascendant. And the thing about him is, that Pisces can be connected with film, filmography, videography. And the thing about him is, I sense that He became a director, and I think with this combination, what shows in him is that he more likely than not pursued this kind of thing connected with filmography in a very assertive and aggressive like manner. He pursued something that might have been like a Pisces interest and did it in an air and went about it in an Aries fashion. And I think he's a good example of this combination. Well, anyway, people, it's important to look at the aspect, if any, that is made between the Sun in Pisces and the Aries Ascendant, as this could indicate if these energies may blend well or might not blend as well, and if maybe they may not blend really at all if they're isolated, like if there's no aspect made, or might not really have much blending in that case. But anyway, let's say, for example, somebody has a conjunction between these two energies. Let's say the Pisces Sun is at 28 degrees and the Aries Ascendant is at 2 degrees. You might have a very strong integration and amalgamation of these energies, which could be very intensifying. Now, let's say you can have an out-of-sign sextile aspect take place. This could be a positive blending. Let's say that the Pisces Sun is at 1 degree and the Aries Ascendant is at 29 degrees. That would form an out-of-sign sextile aspect, which would be positive and auspicious. And even though they're still neutral by sign, at least how I see it, they still, in this example, you might have a little better positive integration in blending of these energies, and they may work better together than the typical person with this combination. Now, you could also have another positive aspect, though it is minor. Now, you could have a semi-sextile aspect take place between these energies. Let's say that the Pisces Sun is at 13 degrees and the Aries Ascendant is at 13 degrees. That would form a semi-sextile aspect, which I call slightly positive or auspicious. It's like the sextile, which I described before, but it's modified and it's not as strong or intense. Now, on the negative side, you could have a semi-square aspect take place, which is a minor aspect but is adverse. Let's say the Pisces Sun is at 8 degrees and the Aries Ascendant is at 23 degrees. Well, that would form a semi-square aspect, which I call slightly negative or adverse. And you could have a little conflicting of energy in this case. Now, even if the person is not cognizant of his or her astrological placements, it could indicate that this person might feel maybe a little bit misconstrued or misunderstood by others due to the fact that what they're projecting outwardly may be strongly different than what is going on inside, which could cause some inner feelings of exasperation and tension. Now, it's also important to look at where the Sun in Pisces is posited by houses. This could indicate, even if though the Aries rising may strongly suppress to some degree the Sun in Pisces energy, it could indicate where this Sun in Pisces energy may still come out at least somewhat prominently. If the Sun in Pisces is posited in the 10th house, well, you might have that strong idealism and really that strong compassionate Pisces energy perhaps come out in 10th house matters such as their career, livelihood, and maybe their public image or their standing in their community, how they're seen by others in their community. So, and even matters connected perhaps with authority figures. Now, if the Sun in Pisces is posited in the 11th house, well, this could indicate the Pisces idealism and that compassion and that sensitivity may come out strongly in matters connected with friends and acquaintances, and perhaps even in goals and aspirations. Now, the Sun in Pisces is posited in the 12th house. Well, the 12th house, even though it corresponds with the sign Pisces, so in a way you might get a double Pisces energy in a way because of this, but at the same time keep in mind that the 12th house is a cadent house, and in cadent houses the energies can be a little more diminished as opposed to the other types of houses. And I think especially the 12th house is the house of restrictions and limitations. So this Pisces energy might come out more in seclusion and solitude, and really perhaps in their private matters you might see this strong imagination, this compassionate energy, and that wanting, and maybe even that intuitive side may come out strongly more in private. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for having the Sun in Pisces and an Aries Ascendant in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time where I'll be dissertating and talking about having the Sun in Pisces and a Taurus Ascendant in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.